May we bow our heads and lift our hearts to the lofty heights of heaven where resideth our God, and thank him for this opportunity and privilege for being in this place. Pray, O God, now that you would hear the thanksgiving which we have come to present unto thee. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please be seated. Good morning and welcome to Thomas Nelson Community College on this very historic occasion. And it is historic because this is the first formal inauguration ceremony on the college campus, even though the college has had 3 previous presidents. During its nearly 20 years of educational service to the Virginia Peninsula and the Commonwealth at large, Thomas Nelson Community College has had much to be proud of. It boasts of a professional faculty, over 90% of whom have advanced degrees, nearly 30% of them holding the doctorate. And it boasts of a professionally dedicated staff. And this fall, it boasts of a student body that numbers nearly 7,000, a college record that will ensure that Thomas Nelson retains its position as being the largest single campus institution among the 23 community colleges that constitute the system. It is this college that Dr. Robert Templin has chosen to serve and to lead in this, his first presidency. To give him support and to show their respect for him, numerous colleges, universities, and associations have sent delegates today to join us in this ceremony. We want now to recognize them by asking each one, as the name of their respective institutions are called, to stand for just a moment and be recognized. Beginning with the colleges and the community college system, we have Blue Ridge Community College, Ann Wade. I regret to say that Germanna Community College is not represented today because of a death in the family. J. Sargent Reynolds Community College, S.A. Bud Burnett. John Tyler Community College, Freddie Nicholas. Mountain Empire Community College, Don Pereer. Northern Virginia Community College, Richard Ernst. Piedmont Virginia College, George Vaughn. Rappahannock Community College, John Upton. Southside Community College, John Cavan. And Tidewater Community College, George Pass. Other colleges and universities throughout the Commonwealth include Bridgewater College, Kimball Hahn. Christopher Newport College, Anthony Santoro. Richard Bland College, Carol Somerville. Randolph-Macon College, G.S. Forrest. Sweetbriar College, Elizabeth White. University of Virginia, David Montague. Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, Heidi Derby. Virginia State University, Wilbert Greenfield. Hampton University, William Harvey. And Virginia Wesleyan University, James Bergdahl. Representing professional associations and organizations, we have the Modern Language Association of America, represented by Carolyn Durham, and the State Council for Higher Education in Virginia, Barry Dorsey, and the Virginia Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, Dorothy Bryant, and representing the Virginia Community College System Office, Marshall Smith. Please join me in showing our appreciation for their participating in today's ceremony. I've indicated that Dr. Templin is the college's 4th president. The His predecessor, Dr. Tom Kubala, couldn't be with us today, but we are fortunate indeed to have the college's first two presidents in our midst. Dr. Tom Jenkins, and Tom, if you please stand, is the college's first president who served the institution from 1967 until 1971, when he left to become the president and director of Houston Community College District, where he still serves. Tom, it's good of you to be with us today. And Dr. Gerald Cannon, who was the college's second president, having served the institution from 1971 until 1979. Now retired and living on the Virginia Peninsula, Jerry was also the college's first Dean of Instruction. Jerry, thanks for being with us. We appreciate all of you who have come to attend to today's ceremony. If the proposition is true that it is good to have friends in high places, then we are indeed fortunate to have on the Virginia Peninsula Hunter B. Andrews. For Senator Andrews, who has served the Virginia Peninsula since 1964, is the Senate Majority Leader, the Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, a member of the Rules Committee, They were a bit early. We had arranged for them to come just after the President's inaugural address. And a member of the Education and Health Committee, as well as serving numerous other functions in the General Assembly. Educated at the College of William and Mary and receiving his professional degree from the University of Virginia School of Law, Senator Andrews practices law in Hampton when he's not in Richmond, and where he lives with his wife, Cynthia. There he finds time, although nobody's quite certain how, to be an active participant in the Rotary Club, to serve on the Hampton Roads Educational Television Association, to serve on the Board of Directors of Sovereign Bank, to be the chairman of the Jamestown-Yorktown Foundation, and to be a trustee for the War Memorial Museum of Virginia, among many other things that he does. We are indeed privileged to have Senator Andrews with us today to talk to us about Thomas Nelson Community College and the Virginia Peninsula. Senator Andrews.
Thank you. I knew my opponent had great strength, but did not realize she had the Air Force on her side. Unfortunately, they don't vote. I am pleased to be with you today as a part of the Thomas Nelson Community College's inauguration of Dr. Templin, as you know, as the fourth president. As I think back over 20 years, one of the reasons this college was located at this site was the promise that there would be an interchange here of I-64. And that's how we got Dr. Jenkins out of Texas. I'm delighted to report that after 20 years of perseverance, we're now going to have the interchange. And hopefully everyone can get to the college easier. I am impressed by the way the college has opened its doors to our residents here. For a significant number of people, higher education and post-secondary training would be simply dreams were it not for the opportunities this college provides. I am very happy that I was able to play an important role during the past several years in actually reducing Thomas Nelson Community College and all community college tuition costs so that it remains financially accessible to our residents. I'm also pleased to see the comprehensive array of different programs that are available in fields as diverse as electronics, technology, nursing, and welding to the traditional arts and sciences. The college's cooperative arrangements with our public schools and articulation efforts, that's an academic word for you lay people. You articulate. They don't even understand it, but anyway. And in developing the 2+2 program with the New Horizons Center next door, provides a master technician program, and we think this is second to none in the Commonwealth. The Peninsula needs Thomas Nelson's community college, and the college is done by responding to the needs of all of our people. However, as the college inaugurates its fourth president and it begins the third decade of service, it also faces an important crossroads. Increasingly, the college will be called upon to play a more active role in the economic development of the peninsula. Governor Biles and members of the General Assembly expect for Virginia's colleges and universities, and especially for its community colleges, to be more intricately related to the Commonwealth's goals for attracting and expanding industry and creating new jobs. Industries are more and more coming to realize that their ability to remain competitive in a rapidly changing global economy depends upon a well-educated, flexible workforce which continues to receive training as conditions in the marketplace shift from time to time. Industries will be looking for assistance in applying advanced technologies to the improvement of their company's economic performance. In short, they're coming to understand that their success in the information age, which will be tied to their access to knowledge-based resources. This college's scientific, technical, and educational resources are all knowledge-based, and consequently they form the fundamental ingredients necessary for sustained economic growth and development of our region. The college must form effective partnerships with our businesses and industries so that the potential I have spoken of will be fully realized. The danger is not that this college might try to become more aggressively involved in the economic development of our region. The danger is more likely to be that of missed opportunities for the college to reach its full potential and to continue its tradition of service to the people of the Virginia Peninsula. May it meet the challenge in the future as it has in the past, and I am confident of the leadership of Dr. Templin, he will carry on a fine tradition of serving our peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Andrews. It is a rare privilege and a distinction for Thomas Nelson Community College to welcome to its campus a man of national educational prominence, Mr. Robert Atwell. Educated at Worcester College in Ohio and the University of Minnesota, Mr. Atwell has been the recipient of numerous honorary doctorates. Having served as president of Pitzer College in Claremont, California, and vice chancellor of the University of Wisconsin at Madison, Mr. Atwell moved to the position of executive vice president with the American Council of Education in 1978, a position that he held for 6 years. In 1984, he assumed the presidency of the American Council of Education. That is an umbrella organization for all institutions in higher education, nearly 3,100 of them in the United States. Mr. Atwell, in his various duties, works to represent these institutions as he appears before Congress to ensure that federal aid to higher education not only continues, but that it continues at an increased rate. He has been very active in the reform of intercollegiate athletics in higher education, and most recently has been busily preparing a national agenda for higher education for the upcoming presidential campaign. It is with great pleasure, and it is our distinct privilege to have deliver to us the inaugural address by Mr. Robert Atwell.
Thank you very much. You neglected to mention that I was the president of my fourth grade class. Indeed, I was the president of my fourth grade class 2 years in a row. Mr. President and senators and distinguished platform people and representatives of other institutions here assembled, men and women of the faculty who do the real work of this institution and the students for whom it exists. It is an honor for me to be with you on this joyful occasion when you celebrate the new leadership of this institution. Now, I confess to you that this event would seem to have been a long time in coming. A long courtship somehow doesn't seem like an apt metaphor, nor does baptism, since the total immersion has already happened for Bob Templin, and indeed he's surfaced for his first of many deep breaths, I'm sure. It occurred to me that it's somewhere really between a bar mitzvah and a funeral. That's really where we are. But perhaps the best way to describe this is a reaffirmation of the marriage vows. That's about as close as I could come in ecclesiastical terms to what we are about today. But I am very happy for this institution that you have the good fortune of having Bob Templin as your new leader, a person clearly of uncommon courage, wisdom, and good humor, a combination not always found in the sometimes stuffy timidity of college presidents. I have to tell you a story about a college president, since I know so many of them so well. There is the story of the college president who died and went to hell. It seems that the faculty had voted for it. It seems that the students had demanded it, and the board of trustees had arranged it. But the odd thing was that he was there for a full semester before he realized that he wasn't back on campus. Friends, I want to talk very briefly this morning about the changing nature of the world. It may not be readily apparent on a beautiful fall morning why any of that would be terribly relevant to a community college in Southside Virginia. But I would suggest that whatever the location, whatever the student body composition, whatever the heritage of the institution, we do have a responsibility as institutions of higher learning to understand and describe the world in which our students will live. So I invite you to consider a few somewhat disturbing facts about that world. If we think of the world as consisting of 100 people, 67 are poor, 55 have annual incomes of less than $600, 50 are living in substandard housing and without safe drinking water, 47 are illiterate, 25 are hungry and malnourished. 6 of these 100 people are Americans, but that 6% consumes 33% of the income of the entire world. Only one of these 100 people hold a baccalaureate degree. Within our own nation, 30% of our wealth is now concentrated in 5% of our population. And since 1981, the richest 1/5 of our American households gained $25 billion in disposable income, and the poorest 1/5 lost $7 billion. That hardly sounds like a promising world, nor does it sound like a very fair American society. I call to your attention some other dimensions of our international existence. We are in the midst of a very cold shower about America's place in the world. Our military experience in Vietnam, our economic experience with the oil crises of the mid and late 1970s, and the fact that the Japanese have surpassed us in so many respects suggests that we are far less than invincible. We can no longer dominate the world economically nor militarily. It will take an arms agreement not only to save the world from nuclear destruction, but simply to allow us any hope of maintaining the kind of educational and social infrastructure necessary to retain our competitiveness in the world. A word on that C word, competitiveness, in a minute. But the simple fact is that the current younger generation may well be the first in the history of this nation who will not be better off than their parents. A word on competitiveness. In many respects, I find it a code word for how America can continue to consume disproportionate shares of the world's goodies. Competitiveness conjures up all the macho sports imagery so compelling to Americans. Competitiveness suggests winners and losers. I ask simply, who do we want to lose while we win? Do we want the Japanese, who are providing the capital for at least 30% of our current borrowing and who are potentially a major market for our goods and services? Do we want the Germans to be losers, the French, the Taiwanese? I would simply suggest that the rhetoric ought to shift from win-lose to win-win, with cooperation the theme rather than competition, because we will lose trade wars and no one wins other kinds of wars. Let's look at the changing composition of our own society, turning first to families. In 1955, 60% of the households in the United States consisted of a working father, a housewife mother, and 2 or more school-age children. In 1980, that kind of family unit was 11%, and today it's about 7%. It is all well and good to be nostalgic about the basic American family. The truth is, there aren't many of them left. Of every 100 children born today, 12 will be born out of marriage, and great numbers will be born to parents who divorced before the child is age 18, and 41 will reach age 18 normally. Every day in America, 40 teenage girls give birth to their 3rd child, and most of these mothers are not married. About half these mothers are 15 to 17 years of age, and about a third of them never finish high school. Teenaged females in America are more than twice as likely to get pregnant than in any other developed nation in the world. And the evidence is this is not because of any higher levels of sexual activity. The major difficulty is the inability of many American young people to get sex education or contraception. And the results are about 500,000 babies each year born with a high likelihood of being educationally retarded or difficult to teach. If we turn to the age distribution of our population, that we find that we have an aging society. It's aging by reason of declines in childbearing among adults and the fact that people live longer, to the point where those graduating from college in the next few years, when they retire at around the year 2030, there will be 65 million people over the age of 65, more than double the present number. And the percentage of the elderly in the population will grow from 12% to 21% over that same period in which those baby boomers will be reaching old age. When I retire, there will be fewer than 3 people to pay for my Social Security compared to 15 when my father retired. And that 12% of the population, which is over age 65, receives 51% of all government expenditures for social services. Largely as a consequence of Social Security and Medicare improvements, a child is 6 times more likely than an elderly person to be living in poverty. And in 1970, not so long ago, an older person was more likely to be poor. Only about 12% of the elderly are poor, in contrast to 25% of kids under 18, and that figure approaches 50% for minority kids. Of all Americans living in poverty today, 40% are under age 18. A young person joining the labor force today will have to pay $50,000 in taxes over his or her working life just to pay the interest on the deficits which have been added to the federal debt in the past 5 years alone. Let's look at the minority composition of our society. California now has a majority of minorities in its elementary schools. We don't even have words to describe that. Half the states have public school populations which are more than 1/4 minority, and all 25 of the largest urban school districts have a majority of minorities. By the year 2010, or maybe sooner depending on immigration rates, more than 1/3 of the nation will be black or Hispanic, contrasted with 20% today. And minorities are not completing high school, particularly Hispanics with a 40 to 50% dropout rate and rising, and the participation rates in higher education for blacks are declining absolutely and proportionately. Nearly 13% of the population is black and 7.2% Hispanic, but blacks are less than 9% of college enrollments and dropping and Hispanics are a dismal 4.3% and rising all too slowly. The reality is that except for Asians, minority participation in education declines at every level. We can speculate about the reasons for declining minority participation in education, but the effect is unarguable. We are in danger of creating a permanent social underclass, consisting of large numbers of unemployed and unemployable minorities, poor and undereducated white children. The cost of welfare will be staggering, and we need to remember that the cost of keeping a person in prison far exceed the cost of keeping him or her in college. It is said that it costs $23,000 a year on the average to keep someone in the state pen and $5,000 a year to send them to Penn State. And I have to say that I am deeply impressed with President Templin's commitments to increase minority enrollments and to reach out to the minority community in this particular area. That kind of leadership is precisely what we need throughout higher education. So the aging population, the changing character of our families, the rapid growth in minorities, the decline in America's economic role in the world, and the dangers of a permanent underclass are bad enough. And on top of that, we are leaving the next generation somewhere between a $2 trillion and $3 trillion national debt because we've been unwilling to pay our own way. Indeed, we deliberately cut taxes excessively in 1981, and the result is a doubling of the national debt ever since. Now, we who happen to work in colleges and universities are, fortunately for us, and probably fortunately for the society we serve, not responsible for devising politically feasible solutions to all these problems. We are, however, profoundly responsible for exposing our students and ourselves to the realities of a changing world. It is no longer enough to offer a curriculum rooted in Western civilization alone, nor is it acceptable to offer a curriculum without foreign language and cultural requirements. No student should graduate who is not reasonably competent in written and spoken English, and no one should graduate who does not understand the nature of the world they will face out there, economically, racially, demographically, and politically. And having described the world as it is, not as it was, or not as we might wish it to be, we need to have a set of values which we should rather unapologetically set forth. There is plenty of evidence that suggests that the American people, or a substantial portion of them, believe that colleges and universities have failed most profoundly in the area of ethics and values. We have even occasionally bragged that we are value-free or neutral on questions of investments or questions of human behavior. Our graduates are seen as the me-firsters, more interested in fattening their wallets than their minds. A society where significant numbers of us believe that the more or less unregulated pursuit of self-interest best serves the national interest is in deeper trouble than we realize, and I would only ask the question rhetorically, where did our young people get those values? The answer is complex, but we in education cannot fully excuse ourselves for our moral neutralism, or as Alan Bloom in his best-selling book, The Closing of the American Mind, characterizes it, moral relativism, which can only be read as an abdication of responsibility. As I thought about what a college or university can do about the desperate problems we face, however remote they may seem on a beautiful fall afternoon, I was struck by some remarks which Robert Fulham used at Middlebury College last spring. We in Washington are very conscious these days of the need for attribution. And some of these words speak in a simple way to our responsibilities as educators, and I quote, "Most of what I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountains, but there in the sandbox at nursery school. These are the things I learned. Share everything, play fair, don't hit people, put things back where you found them, clean up your own mess, Don't take things that are not yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm milk and cookies are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn every day. Take a nap every afternoon. And when you go out into the world, watch for traffic, hold hands and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the plastic cup. The roots go down and the plant goes up, and nobody really knows why. But we are all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice, and even the little seed in the plastic cup. They all die. So do we. And then remember the book about Dick and Jane, and the first word you learned, the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule, and love, and basic sanitation, ecology, and politics, and sane living. Think of what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 in the afternoon and then lay down with our blankets for a nap. Or if we had a basic policy in our nation and other nations to always put things back where we found them and clean up our own messes. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. Friends of Thomas Nelson College, I congratulate you on this occasion on your good fortune in your new leadership. May you face the dangerous world with incisive analysis and simple values, and may you hold hands and stick together. And President Templin, may you live forever. Thank you very much.
It is a very humbling experience to have to follow Mr. Atwell. Senator Andrews, Senator Bobby Scott, other great leaders of the Virginia General Assembly who are devoted friends of education, College Board, the presidents, distinguished American educators, members of Dr. Templin's wonderful family. As chairman of the State Board for Community Colleges, I have responsibility for the 23 outstanding institutions that make up our statewide system. But I feel like today I'm going back to where I came from. 9 years ago, when Dr. Templin was appointed as dean at Piedmont Virginia Community College, I had just recently been elected chairman of the local advisory board for Piedmont Virginia Community College. Dr. Templin very quickly showed me his understanding of the organization of American education by summoning me out to his office, seating me down and telling me exactly what I could and could not do as chairman. My life has been sort of on a treadmill since then, but Bob, quite obviously, has gone on to bigger and better things. Bob, I respect and admire you. I envy your knowledge of education, and I particularly covet the seemingly easy grace with which you express your knowledge. The respect and affection that you demonstrate for everybody that you come into contact with is evidenced by the respect and affection that everyone has for you. I've come to see you in the past, as I will in the future, for advice, and your counsel has always been sound. For these reasons, it is a particular pleasure to be able to participate in the investiture today, and I would now ask you to come forward. I didn't overstate any of that, did I? Robert G. Templin, Jr., by the authority vested in me by the State Board for Community Colleges, I hereby vest in you the office of the President of Thomas Nelson Community College, together with the rights and responsibilities of that office. Congratulations.
I didn't know till a few minutes ago that I had a speaking part, but it's a pleasure to be here. I would like to applaud all of you that have had anything to do with Thomas Nelson from some 20 years ago until date. Many of the staff have been here that long, and look at what you have accomplished. Look what you are accomplishing, and we will look at what you will accomplish in the future. I often tell people, if you want to know what will happen in the future, just look back and move it the other way. Look back 10 years at what we had at Thomas Nelson, and you can easily see what's going to happen in the next 10 years by magnitudes. About a year ago, our president at Thomas Nelson resigned about a month after I took office, and I had to meet with Dr. Hockaday and start the procedure for choosing a president. I knew very little about it, but I was perfectly at ease with Dr. Hockaday. We made those selections, we made those necessary moves, we met with the board, went through interviews, etc., and we chose the person that we thought could best take the job at Thomas Nelson as president. Over about the last year, we have found that whether by accident or whether we knew what we were doing, we made a fine decision. Things are moving at Thomas Nelson. We're very proud of Thomas Nelson. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Thomas Nelson Community College.
Thank you very much.
This is delivered for Mr. Alvin Pettaway, President of the Student Government Association, who is unable to attend. Mr. Pettaway is away at a student leadership conference in St. Louis, but his thoughts and best wishes are with us. Members of the board, members of the stage party, faculty, staff, fellow students, and distinguished guests. As spokesperson for the 6,929 daytime and evening, full-time and part-time students here at Thomas Nelson Community College, I would be remiss if I failed to thank you, Dr. Templin, for the enthusiastic support that you have given us in the past year. You have been generous with your time and your expertise. We, as a student body, could not ask for nor find a more devoted administrator. Your dedication to excellence is a contagious spirit that serves to inspire those of us who have been granted the opportunity to share in leadership roles here at Thomas Nelson. It was because of your drive and determination that Thomas Nelson was able to offer a student leadership conference this summer. During the workshop, much needed guidance and information was received by those students who now carry the responsibilities for student activities here on campus. It has been your intention that those students who are responsible enough to accept the extra work involved in the areas of student services be given the tools that are needed to perform their duties with excellence. It has been your adherence to the policies and the procedures of the Virginia Community College system that has set an example for our own administrators. We have learned to study the framework in which we are to function and to make the most of the system structure. You have shown us that you are a man who firmly believes in the positive possibilities of any situation, and you are quick to point out where these lie. Your attitude has been responsible for alleviating many of the frustrations that we would normally have experienced. If we were to have one complaint, it would be that there is not enough of you to go around. In closing, let me say that working with you, Dr. Templin, has not only been an added opportunity granted us in our educational experience, but it has also given us a high standard on which to model our future.
Greetings to all the friends of Thomas Nelson Community College. As a viable segment of this institution, the classified support staff is indeed honored to be participants in this momentous occasion, the first in the history of our college. On behalf of the support staff, I welcome this opportunity to congratulate you, Dr. Templin, on the inauguration of your presidency of the school. The support staff, which number about 144 and covers functions of the college from confidential secretary to housekeeping, grounds and maintenance, are dedicated and committed to the success of Thomas Nelson. Your encouragement and support for the initiation of the Classified Support Staff Association, whose purpose it is to provide a communication link and a forum for input, has been significant in that commitment and dedication. In the time you have been here, Dr. Templin, you have already addressed many long-standing issues and concerns of the support staff, such as raising our professional levels of development through staff development opportunities and increased representation and participation on the various college committees. You have encouraged us to freely express our ideas, and your enthusiasm for Thomas Nelson Community College and dedication to our students is motivation for excellence in the performance of our jobs. As busy as you have been, you have made time to get to know each of us, and you have literally opened your office door to everyone. To those present, I would like to share with you our feelings that Dr. Templin is not only a competent administrator, but he also is one who possesses and demonstrates genuine human behavior. Example of such behavior. This fall, Dr. Templin used his leave time to come to campus to thank personally and to present a carnation to each staff member who participated in the fall registration. We really appreciate that. Dr. Templin, your leadership is a model for all and allows us to look forward to continued mutual support that results in cohesiveness among the college community. With this cohesive atmosphere, our mission and goal of opportunity and service to the students, who are our business, our only business, will continue to be met. Together we will work for and look forward to a continued bright future at Thomas Nelson. Thank you.
Dr. Templin and honored guests, few people love a symbol more than an English teacher does, and what impresses me most this morning is the symbolic nature of what we are doing here. And that is acknowledging with the traditional rituals of our profession what has already happened in fact, vesting the authority of this college in the man who is responsible for its future. Tradition and the future are very important to us on the faculty at Thomas Nelson Community College.
We value both the traditions of our profession and the futures of our students. The students Mr. Atwell is referred to are not coming. They are here.
We recognize them in our classrooms. What we impart to these students is not only knowledge, but an opportunity, perhaps the first for many, for their self-respect, and an opportunity for the improvement of their lives, perhaps the last such opportunity. Dr. Templin, you have already made a significant and positive impact on this college and on its faculty. You've provided an environment in which the morale of the faculty has been positively turned around, and you have recognized the dignity and the expertise of your faculty, and for that we are grateful. It is on behalf of that dedicated faculty, in particular its forum and its senate, that it is my pleasure to offer to you our congratulations on your inauguration, our confidence in your leadership, and our continual collegial friendship.
Before I begin my remarks, there are several other distinguished guests in our audience today who I would like to recognize and ask if they will please stand. First, we have the pleasure of the Honorable Herb Bateman from America's 1st Congressional District. Congressman Bateman, thank you for being here. Next, the Honorable Bobby Scott, Senator in the Virginia General Assembly. The Honorable Mary Christian, member of the House of Delegates. In addition, I think some of the representatives or the delegates of some of the colleges and universities here were unfortunately overlooked. David Lutzer from the College of William and Mary. Thank you for being here. David N. Montague from the University of Virginia. And Joseph M. Markello from Old Dominion University. Joe, thank you. Finally, but by no means last, in my heart are some very special people to me in whom I take great pride. First, my wife, Carla, who is my constant inspiration. And since the rest of my family is about the size of a freshman composition class, I'll ask that you hold applause until they've all stood. My oldest daughter, Kimberly, could not be with us today. Our second oldest, Christine, is 16. Chris. Next is David, 13. John, who's 12. Aaron, who is 9. Catherine, who's 8. Marie, who is 8. My son, Joe, who is 6 years old. Thank you. And it's true with large crowds, I forgot one. Elizabeth, who is 2 years old. Senator Andrews, Congressman Bateman, Mr. Atwell, other honored members of the Platform Party, college board members, delegates of colleges and universities, boards and professional associations, my colleagues on the faculty, students, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Thomas Nelson Community College begins its 20th year, we find ourselves on the doorstep of the 21st century, facing a future, as described by Mr. Atwell this morning, certain to be characterized by rapid change, ever-increasing global interdependence, and a virtual revolution in the nature and kinds of employment we find. For the high school graduating class of the year 2000, which, by the way, enters the first grade next year, what will they need to know? What will they have to be able to do so they will be prepared for the kinds of careers that haven't even begun to be thought of today? For tomorrow's business and political leaders that are in our classrooms now, what do they need to understand about the complexities of our world and its 5 billion people and their vastly different and changing complex cultures if we hope for our nation to continue to be a world leader and for our world to be a more humane and peaceful place? For those of us that are well into our adult years, how do we possibly keep abreast of the knowledge explosion which is occurring around and of the technological changes so that we can remain competent in our jobs, so we can improve the competitiveness and performance of our companies, and that our communities will experience positive economic growth? And finally, how will we ensure that all of our citizens will share equally in the opportunity to reach their potential and to contribute as full members of our society? As we peer into the window of the 21st century for some sense of direction, I am mindful of the college's need to build upon the many strengths that it's developed since its founding in 1967. Among these needs and these strengths are that of being community-based, its accessibility, the comprehensiveness of its program offerings, and the personalized attention that our students receive in pursuing their education. I'd like to speak a moment about each of these strengths because as institutional characteristics, they define for us a unique role on the peninsula in the community of higher education and provide us a foundation upon which to build. The fact that we are community-based means that our concerns center upon the people, the localities, the businesses, and the problems of the Virginia Peninsula. Our excellent and outstanding sister colleges and universities on the peninsula, Christopher Newport College, the College of William and Mary, and Hampton University, have as their missions to serve various educational needs of the greater Hampton Roads region, the entire Commonwealth of Virginia, and the nation as appropriate. And while we proudly stand with these great institutions as full participating members of this higher education community, we take on our quality and distinctiveness through our own distinctive mission, which is defined by the characteristics of the community that we serve. We define our programs and services based upon local needs and interests. We define our programs based upon changing economic conditions of the peninsula. We are, in effect, part of the public education system of the area. We work closely with our local governments. We are responsive to the needs of local employers. We are, in every sense, the Virginia Peninsula's community college. Community is our middle name. We are accessible to all people. Any person who is 18 years of age or older and able to benefit academically is welcomed at Thomas Nelson Community College. As tuition expenses continue to soar throughout higher education, tuition at Thomas Nelson Community College actually has been declining, thanks to the support of our governor, members of the General Assembly, and especially to Senator Andrews. We are, in every sense, the Virginia Peninsula's People's College, an extension of the democratic ideal to provide universal post-secondary education. We are comprehensive in our offerings. This fall, as Dr. Lowland mentioned, we have a record-breaking number, almost 7,000 students. They're enrolled choosing from among 300 different liberal arts, academic, technical, and vocational subjects. We provide opportunities for liberal arts education through our 8 degree programs that are designed to provide the first 2 years of an undergraduate education. We offer career-related and job training through our 59 programs such as architecture, electronics, and police science, to mention just 3. We offer continuing education opportunities at more than 20 different off-campus locations. Nowhere else in higher education except the community college will you find such diversity brought together as the liberal arts and career education. We offer personalized attention, characterized by small classes taught by a faculty dedicated to teaching rather than research. We offer a personalized approach that contrasts sharply with those institutions that crowd students into freshman classes that number 100 or 200. Lectures are typically given to 20 or fewer students in the average class size that we have. Our faculty, 92%, have advanced graduate degrees, while the rest are highly experienced in their crafts, in their fields such as electricity, welding, and air conditioning. Students who need assistance in overcoming academic difficulties find developmental instruction available. Those who need help with personal problems often turn to one of our 8 professional counselors. Such personalized attention, with an emphasis on teaching excellence, makes up a collegiate environment where each student counts and is valued as an individual and offers them a distinctive educational opportunity. So given these strengths, given our past, what are the directions we should chart for the college's future? Building upon our traditional strengths, what are the changing social conditions and economic realities that surround us and provide clues to the direction we should take? First, and in many ways the most important of these clues, has already been addressed by Mr. Atwell today. Our nation and the Commonwealth of Virginia have entered dangerously troubled waters in growing educational, social, and economic inequalities in our society. As Mr. Atwell had pointed out, our population, as it gets larger, the fastest growing segments of our population will be the minority communities, particularly blacks and Hispanics. While these demographic shifts are occurring, we are also witnessing an alarming increase in the high school dropout rate, an increase which is disproportionately found amongst minorities. And as Mr. Atwell has observed today also, the college going rate of black high school graduates nationally has been consistently dropping and is now lower today than it was a decade ago. In Virginia, while we do more than most other states with these problems, the story is sadly the same. In 1978, the entrance rates for black students into publicly supported colleges and universities was 31.4%. In 1986, despite all of the efforts of the governor's office, the General Assembly, the State Council of Higher Education, and the colleges and universities themselves, the college entrance rate for black students had dropped to 30.9%. Meanwhile, the rate of college attendance by white students has jumped during the same period from roughly 40 to 50%. The disparity between blacks and whites in Virginia with regard to college attendance has more than doubled in 8 years. And of those minority students who do choose to attend higher education, their academic performance and completion rates lag seriously behind other students. Because we know that education serves as a gatekeeper to one's standard of living, to one's ability to find full and meaningful employment, to one's full participation in the political process, and even to one's health and life expectancy. Our society must not tolerate a condition which, because of differences in educational achievement, we are polarized along racial lines. Our nation's future as a world leader demands that we have highly trained and a flexible workforce capable of learning new technologies as they're developed. The survival of our democratic institutions depends upon all segments of our society understanding their mutual interdependencies for one another. It depends upon the pragmatic realization that each of us must work for the success of others if we ourselves are to be successful. What are we to do about these alarming educational trends that threaten our future as a world leader and as a democratic society? I propose that Virginia's community colleges and Thomas Nelson Community College in particular become that bridge over troubled waters that links the Virginia Peninsula's public education, public schools, with its system of higher education in opening educational opportunities for disadvantaged people. I propose that we build a college of opportunity that connects educational opportunity with the American dream. We start by inviting our sister institutions of higher education on the peninsula to join us, to identify ways that together we can improve the college-going rate and persistence of minority students. I've invited the presidents of Christopher Newport College, Hampton University, and the College of William and Mary to meet with us here at Thomas Nelson Community College to find ways that we can work together on this important problem. I'm pleased to report that all of the Peninsula's college leaders, Dr. Santero, Dr. Harvey, and Dr. Verkyle, have all accepted my invitation. Since 3 out of 4 black students who start their collegiate educations at predominantly white colleges do so at a community college, it only makes good sense to concentrate upon ways that 2-year and 4-year colleges can work together to encourage and support black community college graduates to continue their education. Next, Thomas Nelson Community College needs to find ways to become more involved in collaborative efforts with our public school colleagues, wherever we can be helpful in reducing the high school dropout rate. We need to be part of a support network in challenging students who have academic potential, both black and white, to develop that potential and to continue their education after high school, whether it's at a community college or at some other appropriate institution of higher learning. I am convinced that there are significant numbers of students who, if identified while they're in the elementary grades and who are encouraged through the middle grades, who are worked with in high school, have the ability and can benefit from college attendance. However, because these students often do not see themselves as college material, they're often poorly motivated or face awesome financial barriers, they do not see themselves as attending college or it being part of their future. I am convinced that we at Thomas Nelson Community College, working with our public schools, can make a difference to this middle sector of students who have ability, but who at the moment do not distinguish themselves as scholars. Another direction for the Peninsula's community colleges is connected to what Senator Andrews said today regarding the area's economic development. We are living in one of the fastest growing and economically dynamic parts of Virginia. The population of the peninsula is expected to grow by 26% by the year 2000, adding more than 95,000 additional residents. The number of new building permits per year now triples what was the number only 10 years ago. Adjusted gross incomes have increased an average of 36% in just the past 5 years. The names Oyster Point, Hampton Roads Center, Seabath, Cannon, Virginia, are further evidence of a continuing economic development that's occurring here. And since we are the Peninsula's community college, and since economic growth is such a prominent feature of our community, we must strengthen our ties with local governments and with the business community so we can contribute even further to positive economic development. Our career programs in the engineering technologies, business, health, public service fields, and the craft occupations all serve to provide our area with a backbone of highly capable and skilled workforce for existing and prospective industries. Yet, more needs to be done. This year, in cooperation with the Center for Innovative Technology in Northern Virginia, Thomas Nelson has begun providing technology transfer assistance to the area's small and medium-sized businesses, where the application of new technology or advanced management practices might improve the company's overall economic performance, make it more productive, and eventually lead to business expansion and more jobs. TNCC will also more aggressively offer to work with area employers in developing customized training so they can maintain a competitive edge in a rapidly changing economy. Finally, a third area I hope for the college to focus activity on is that of strengthening general education, strengthening our offerings with an emphasis upon increasing international awareness. As this week's events in the Persian Gulf demonstrate, as the arms reduction talks in Moscow show us, as the Monday meltdown in the stock exchanges of the world dramatically showed, it's especially important that our students develop a sensitivity to our growing global interdependence, and particularly how international affairs affect our daily lives. Today's observance of the 42nd anniversary of the United Nations also helps to underscore the importance of international understanding. Consequently, the college has developed a proposal as part of its biennial budget request to strengthen our general education offerings and to improve our knowledge of other countries and cultures. As Thomas Nelson Community College enters its third decade of service, to the people of the region, my hope is that it will increasingly be regarded as the area's college of opportunity, the peninsula's community college for economic development, the college at which accessibility and quality education meet to offer a brighter future for all who attend. Thank you very much.
May you stand, please. Our God and our Father, we thank you for what our ears have heard. We thank you for what our hearts have felt. And we pray now, O Lord, that you will give us the courage, give us wisdom, and certainly that knowledge and understanding where we be able to carry out these things which have been presented to us here today. Go with this leader of this educational institution. Throw around him your strong arm of protection and build him up on all leaning side. And those who would support him, we pray, O God, that they would do it diligently and faithfully, loyal to the cause for which we would try to inspire all men, women, girls, and boys to do those things which are right in thy sight. Now we ask of you that you would dismiss us under thy love and thy grace, and may you guide and protect us through thy Holy Spirit, we pray. In your Son Jesus' name, amen.